My name is William Porter, and this is my four-year future reference presentation for Capstone 400 Future Proof Skills. So, who am I and where am I headed? Like I said, my name is William Porter. I am a senior here at the University of Mount Union, and I am a sports business major. As you can see through from one of my pictures, I got to work the Super Bowl last year, and that is me holding the Lombardi Trophy. So that was a very cool experience. I am also a thrower for the track and field team here. I throw shot, weight, disc, and hammer. And then I also had the pleasure of marrying my high school sweetheart this past summer. We've been together since sophomore year of high school, and we are both seniors here now. We got married this past summer, and then the last picture there that you will see is of my mom and my brothers with my wife, as my family is very important. So not only am I looking for after graduation to create a life that's sustainable for me, but also for my wife as well. As we're both going to the sports industry and starting salaries are not usually that high in this industry. And we also don't know where we could be moving to come May. So my identified threats were financial stability, meaningful work, and having a fulfilling life, which honestly through my research I found that these link up to each other more than I thought, and that they directly affect each other. So, with financial stability, the reason I identified this as a threat is because I want to leave college and go into my career with enough money to basically live. I don't need anything extra. I just want to have enough money and bring in enough money to where I'm not having to live paycheck to paycheck or wonder where my next meal is going to come or anything like that. I don't come from a very wealthy family, so throughout my life growing up, that was a lot of the times how we had to do. I was with a single mom and two younger brothers, so we were living paycheck to paycheck, and things got hard, but I just want to be able to live comfortably. And then with meaningful work, I have discovered that meaningful work really is what you make it. So, what am I doing to make my work meaningful? And I found out that if you find meaning in your work, that's what really goes with my next step, having a fulfilling life. So, I want to have enough money to be able to do hobbies or fund whatever I may need in life, and then also have that work life balance to where I'm not always dedicating my time to work, or I don't feel like I have enough time to do anything that I enjoy. So, after going through the SWOT analysis, we found that my key values and strengths I consider to be adaptability, empathy, building connections, and I'm a very competitive person as I'm currently still in sports, and then I played sports all the way through high school as well. Those will all different strengths that I believe will help me within my future career and post graduation. Now, some weaknesses that I will admit that I have is bottling up emotion is one. I'm not one to wear my emotions on my sleeve or really show how I'm feeling. And then that goes hand in hand with I struggle with stress management. It's not that thing like I can't handle when things get hard, but when I get stressed, I tend to let everything pile up, and that really just makes my management of stress worse, and I end up struggling a lot more than what I need to. Now, another weakness I have is procrastination, which I am trying to get better at currently, but it is a weakness that I have acknowledged and that I know that I have. For my next weakness, I have a problem with overcommitting. I will try to do as much as I can, help as many people as I can, do what I can, but sometimes not leaving that time for myself or not leaving enough time to actually do everything that I committed to. Now, I do have some pretty great opportunities being here at the University of Mount Union, as I've built so many connections in the sports industry and had so many different guest speakers that have helped me get to the point I am today, where I have the experience I have today. Also, the internship and experience opportunities in the area surrounding Mount Union, in my industry, so that being the Pro Football Hall of Fame Village, the Cavs, the Guardians, any sport entity around in the area, and we happen to have a lot of them around us, being around Cleveland. And then my next opportunity is my experience within the industry. So, me doing internships here at Hall of Fame Village, that has also opened up doors for me to work Super Bowl. As you guys saw a picture, I've worked March Madness Music Festival. I'm actually going back to Super Bowl this year. I've done NFL flag championships, worked all kind of events and car shows, comedy shows at Hall of Fame Village. So those are all some great opportunities that I have, especially going with post graduation. And then the threats and concerns that I've mentioned: financial stability, meaningful work, fulfilling life. And then one concern that I didn't really discuss as much is moving away, because I'm not, like I said, we're going into the sports industry. I'm not really sure where that's going to take us, but we're going to have to move come May, whether it's I'm going back to Dayton or going somewhere, we have to move. And we don't know where that's going to be at. So that's exciting and scary at the same time. So here goes some of my strategies to overcome some of the threats that I've talked about. So Hanson Gill and Hanson Gill, she wrote an article on managing stress, and the first thing that she said was Hanson Gill and Donna Butler. And one of the main important things they said was becoming aware of our stressors in order to better manage stress. So becoming aware of the things that stress us out and not just letting it pile on and actually doing something about it. And I do think that that is something that can help me and that I'm going to try to pursue moving forward. It's just to deal with my stress, find ways to limit my stress, and then when I do become very stressful, find those things that help me push through and overcome that stress and get done what I have to get done. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is using my strengths to overcome my weaknesses / threats. So, in an article Brian Specio wrote in 2019, he talked about how he really moved up in the sports industry, and it's because of his ability to adapt. Now, that was one of the things that I talked about as a strength of mine, is being able to adapt in different situations. I feel like all throughout my life, I've really had to adapt to new situations. I originally am from Detroit, Michigan. But then I moved to Dayton in 8th grade, so that was a really big culture change. As when I was in Dayton, college was never even a thought of a possible. Or when I was in Detroit, it was never really a thought or possibility that, hey, I can go to college after high school, or we have other things that we can do outside of high school besides going straight into the workforce. When we moved to Dayton, that kind of all changes. We saw new things, saw new opportunities, and I ultimately believe that move was great for us. But I was able to adapt with that and adapt to new circumstances, situations, and personalities. Now, also moving from Dayton to Alliance here at Mount Union, that was another big changes. That was another 3.5 hour drive. I was no longer going to be living with my mom and brothers, and at the time, my wife was not here, so I was coming alone. There was no one else from my high school here, not being 3.5 hours away, so that was a big culture change as well. And adapting, as like I said, I moved from Detroit to Dayton to Alliance. It's all very different kind of cultures and expectations within each city. And so Brian just went over it and talked about how his moves and different job titles, how he was able to adapt to that, how that pushed him forward within his career, and how adaptability is a very important trait to have. So using my ability to adapt and build connections to my advantage, especially with moving, I'm one to always, I like to say, give value to everyone you speak to, because you never know what you could do for someone or what that person could in turn do for you. And so giving value to everyone you talk to and treating everyone like a person is very important to me. So me building connections and being able to adapt, I feel will help me in the long run. And then I came across this really good article I liked from the Indeed editorial team on Indeed of defining my why. And I kind of lost track of that at one point. I had an assignment, like I had a leadership class where we defined our why and we talked about why things were important to us and why we did the things that we did. Now, I lost track of that since then, and then this just really brought me back to that, and it really made me think and process and really get back to what's important to me. And so I feel like that was very important. So keeping that standard and knowing my why is going to propel me forward. And then relying on my support system. Like I said, I bottle up emotion. I suck at stress management. But I have so many people in my corner and a huge support system to where that shouldn't be an issue for me. And it is because I continuously let it be and decide not to talk to people. So relying on my support system is going to be a very important step that I take, and just being more vulnerable with everyone that I talk to and that I trust. So how I will use this guide in the future is remembering my values. I feel like that is very important. Remember your values, remember what you come from, why you do the things that you do, and allow that to push you forward. Now, also a reminder to focus on the process instead of the result. There was another article that I read that Nathan Bayer wrote in 2023. It was a dissertation that was published by LSU, and people talked about. And he sat down with sports business professionals and asked them how do they define meaningful work. Now, a lot of them had different answers, but what he combined that into being is that meaningful work was described as work that serves or work that is impactful, or meaningful to you or others. And so, how do you consider your work meaningful? What do you do? What is important to you to where you know you're doing meaningful work, and how you're going to accomplish your work being meaningful? So it can't be measured, but there's a feeling of purpose within your career. And I feel that me going into the sports industry or wherever and whatever I choose to do moving on, I'm going to keep that in mind and continue to find the meaning and focus on the good things that's going on in work, as well as focusing on the process instead of the result. Another thing Brian talked about was the fact that people want to move up fast in the industry, and that's just not realistic. You move up, but first you have to excel at the job that they give you and the job that you're given, and that is what will propel you forward. It's so you focus on what you have at task, focus on your process instead of focusing on your result and where you currently are. And then last one is relying on my strengths and using those strengths to strengthen my weaknesses. So every day going forward, I'm trying to figure out how I can use my strengths to strengthen my weaknesses and get better at the things that I can and make my weaknesses strengths. And that is my presentation. Thank you.